Welcome back, guys. We've got the back nine coverage of the Jonesboro Skins match coming to you. Now, most people would argue that this is the harder nine, so you're going to see maybe a couple more pushes and hopefully some big putts and some solid drives coming out of these guys here. Now, I did make a mistake on the front nine. Hole 3, Mark did get an eagle instead of a birdie. I misquoted him there, so I had to give him that shout out here. Make up for mistakes. We got hole 10. It's pushing from hole 9 to our 3 skins. It's just a forehand or a turnover backhand for these guys. 252 should be a push. Pretty wide open off the tee. You just got to miss this one tree in the middle of the fairway. Let's see what we got. A little late out of his hand. Maybe held on to it just for a hair too long. Still ended up pretty close, maybe just outside of circle 2 from Elijah. We'll see if Dillan can capitalize with that signature turnover backhand that he has. A little too much turn, probably finished out maybe somewhere in circle 2. Give him a long putt at it. Ben looks like he was throwing a fairway or driver a little too straight. Didn't really get the ground action that he wanted to skip towards the basket, but that still gives him a long putt, which is right now is better than anybody else. Mark looks to go really deep in there, so they probably won't have a putt from Mark's. But he was throwing a D1, and it's very stable, so that should have came back, so they may have a look at it. Just a reminder, it is really cold out there. I mean, it was in the low 40s, I believe, and the wind was whipping a little bit too, so it's not easy for these guys. And we were starting to switch out batteries, so we were taking a little bit of pauses, slowing everything down. So maybe these guys were cooling off just a little bit. Dillan just a bit early there, catching those early trees. Looks like we've got Dillan from maybe 50 feet out. Just a bit short, but still a good bid from that distance. Now, this whole course does use Pro Discus baskets. They are brand new to this course. This course has only been in the ground a year. But these Pro Discus baskets do tend to spit out a little bit if you're not dead center. So you really got to be careful on those putts. Looks like Elijah it slipped out of his hand there, maybe looking to Bruce to give it a good bid and see if they can't take this skin and put him on the board here. Good height, just off the front of the cage. Looks like that straddle putt was maybe a little bit of a tricky lie there, as you can see Dillan kind of kneeling and looking to be trying to throw a forehand in the basket. It's a good bid, right height, just a little wide. I think they'll be tapping in for a par. Here's Mark just dropping in another putt, and that is $30 to Mark and Ben, bringing them up to 60. You got hole 11, par 3, 263. You've got a wide route outside that used to be an old hole, or you can kind of go up the gut and try to weave in and out through those trees. A lot of these guys, now that there's no longer mandatory here, will be taking the outside route like Ben did there. Ben looked to be coming up just a hair short, but there was a little flare skip at the end that might have put them within putting range. And there's that up the gut route that you see, just trying to avoid all those trees, but he just catches that last one and kicks him a little far left. They'll probably be taking bends. It's kind of tough once you get over there to that left side and all that shrubbery. Now, there are multiple pin locations for this hole. They're playing the shortest pin right now, and there's 2 longer pins. One which pushes across, there's a little ditch up there, and then the other one is actually the old pin location for another hole Both of those make the whole play about 100 feet longer. But thankfully we're playing the shortest basket, so birdie is in reach, even if you don't have the best of drives. Looks like Bruce taking that up the gut gap, maybe getting a little bit too much turn there. And that looks like a good shot from Dillan. Just out wide, nice and flat. Looks like it caught a little bit of tree there and kicked him left, so he may be looking at a longer putt than he originally intended, but that's still the best shot of the group so far. If you're taking this outside gap, that's just unfortunate out of Elijah. Right off the first tree, maybe slipped out of his hand a little bit there. If you're taking that outside gap, you want to throw something either really stable, wide and flat, so it pushes and then finishes on hyzer skipping towards the basket, or you want to throw a little flip-up shot and kind of let it glide to the basket. It looks like Dillan caught that stuff in the middle, so unfortunately they're going to be trying to throw this in knowing that at least one of those other four guys are in putting range. Looks like maybe another early release out of Elijah there. Dillan's going to be lining up a putter shot here, probably, maybe even a rock. Trying to just float this into the basket and gets really close. That's under there for a 3. It's going to be putting a little bit of pressure on these guys to get this thing close. Ballsy move through the tree. You don't see many people going through those gaps a lot, especially when you have a nice hyzer around the tree. But maybe from their angle, that's all they had. Mark was fortunate enough to stay up on the hillside instead of rolling into that ditch, which is going to make this whole push if they can. If no one makes his birdie putt, but it looks like Dillan and Bruce are both pretty close here. That's a phenomenal drive by Dillan there. Just a high over the top, maybe a little too much of a run there. A little nerves. This is kind of a scary putt because that ditch is about 10 to 15 feet deep. So once you're in that ditch, that's a hard uphill putt. But Bruce just cashing in there for another skin, putting them on the board. Hole 12, par 3, 318 feet. Pretty much a dog leg left. You got about 4 persimmon trees in the middle there that make a nice little line. You go outside around them, cut the gap inside. There's one tree to miss here in the front. Let's see what these guys carve up. The early mistake here is to not leave it wide enough, and it falls into the inside. It looks like he left that a little straighter than he wanted there, and it just never had a chance to come back. But there's that wide shot. Missing that first tree. Still finished a little early. Maybe he should have thrown something just a touch faster. But that is a putt to try to get this next skin here. And that's the kind of quality shot you want to see. Right there, wide around the first tree. Missing those 4 persimmons in the middle. And then finishing maybe just outside circle 1. I mean, ideally you'd be inside the circle. But like I said, the conditions aren't the most conducive for disc golf. Mark finished, hit a couple trees. Dillan hit that first tree in the middle, kicked him way to the right. They're going to be looking for Elijah to carry the team here. Or it might look like Mark and Ben have an easy chance to get a skin here. And there's that early shot I was talking about. Just finishing inside of all this shrubbery to the left. It's a super tough out. And we'll see if these guys can put a little pressure on everybody else. And that's a great out by Elijah. Just throwing out through the top, knifing through everything, and dropping about 10 feet from the basket. Giving a little bit of a green light to Dillan to try to throw this in. But like I said, there's so much shrubbery and bushes and things like that, and just like that, he gets caught up. But thankfully, Elijah is under the basket. Looks like he's about 70 feet out. Dillan's going to give this a good bid. Just a hair to the right. I'm sorry, that would be that'd be the left side of the basket. It's weird looking at these things backwards. Good height. Dillan's been putting with good height all day, just hasn't been able to connect on anything really. Let's see if Bruce can correct on his partner's mistake here. Got the right height, just off the cage. Like I said, these baskets aren't super forgiving, so your mistakes have to be dead center if you want those things to make. Mark knocking that in, giving him another $10. Resetting the skins. $10 for a skin, $10 for a long drive. You got a landing zone about halfway up the fairway. This is the tightest hole on the course. Par 4, roughly 410. I mean, you can already see off this camera view how tight this thing is. And Mark just filleting that first shot, getting all the way up there to the bridge. If you can get in front of that bridge, that is a phenomenal shot. But anything just close to that bridge is just fine, setting up for your second shot. Looks like Ben got really aggressive too with Mark being up there. Threw a really good shot up the gut. You got two lines of attack here. That Anheuser shot that you just saw Bruce throw and gets caught up on the left side, or you can try to go up the gut a little tighter. It's not as aggressive, and you see Dillan there getting caught up as well, hitting a couple of trees that you can't really see. And there's that up the gut line you see there. Dealey drifting just a bit to the right, but that should still leave them in a pretty good landing zone. Normal shot here would be a flick like Elijah's throwing, just trying to find a safe landing zone. And it looks like Dillan and Elijah are just a hair short of where that landing zone really needs to be. If you could get another 10 to 15 feet, that is absolutely an ideal drive to get up that gut. You can see how tight it is trying to get to the basket there. Dillan just hits one of those trees on the left side, and Elijah debated for a while on which disc to throw, was flipping back and forth between the thumber, forehand, backhand, just trying to get something to the fairway there to give him a putt, and unfortunately hits that first tree. Looks like Bruce is going to line up a roller. There's not a whole lot of roots in the middle of this fairway. Like I said, this course is only like a year old, if even, and that is just beautiful. Perfectly executed roller to about 15 to 20 feet from the basket. I mean, that is just stunning because that gap is so tight and such a hard angle to hit, especially with there's a little ditch there by the bridge, and so any kind of angle difference there would be, that was just so technical. And there's nothing more that Dillan could really do to improve on that shot, just giving him another option there. Looks like Mark's drive finished a hair farther right than they wanted to be able to get a clean shot to get up to the basket. Ben throwing a cut roller, trying to give him a putt, and Mark throwing a forehand. Looks like they skipped a little outside the circle, somewhere inside the circle too. And this is just not where you want to be. This is jail. Elijah's making it look way easier than it really is, getting way up there by the basket to save a par. We're about to see that replay. You can see how much stuff he's got to throw through there. And he just absolutely lasers one up to the basket to put a little pressure on him. Like I said, that was just super technical. But these guys have also been playing a while, and they've really perfected some of those technical shots. Looks like Dealey's going to maybe try to throw this in. That little Anheuser putter shot. Didn't quite have the ceiling to be able to give it the room to get all the way out. We got Mark putting big for a birdie, and he nails it. Mark has putted at something phenomenal today. Normally putts good, but today has been some kind of thing else. There's Dillan, just a hair to the right side, and we'll see if Bruce can't come in and save the day here. Something unique about Bruce is he does putt with harps. I may have mentioned that in the front nine. Something you don't see very often, but he uses that overstability to his advantage, making sure that the wind doesn't affect it. Hole 14, par 4, 450 feet. You got a landing zone right out there in the middle. You're just trying to throw something dead straight with a little bit of hyzer skipping around the corner. Not a whole lot of trees to hit until you get about halfway up the fairway, and there's about 5 or 6 big ones. But if you can get anywhere close to those trees, you are doing just fine. And that shot from Ben looks absolutely beautiful. Couldn't ask for anything better if you're just trying to play for a birdie. If you're trying to play for an eagle, you want to throw something maybe a little less stable and a little higher to try to push that corner and get enough glide to carry it around that corner and let it keep going just a little bit more. But that's just fine. It looks like we missed Mark's drive too, which is unfortunate. And Bruce just a hair early. I don't know if that was... That's a fortunate kick back to the middle of the fairway. This fairway opens up a little bit on the right side, so you have some relief over there, which is going to help him out a little bit. See Dillan, that's just dead straight. Maybe wanted something a touch more stable than that to kind of make that corner. But like I said, that right side is open, so they should have a look to the basket, assuming he didn't go too far with that D2. And there's one of those trees in that corner there that I said you wanted to avoid. Dillan just catches it, kicks him straight to the left. They're going to be pretty pinched off from there. Hopefully Elijah can get him back to the middle of the fairway. There are avenues to the basket on that left side, but they are very tight and really hard to get to because there's a walking path over there. It looks like another early release there from Elijah. Just hitting one of those first trees. You can see they're pinched off over there. So they haven't quite made the gap here, or the corner, I'm sorry. So they're going to be trying to throw a little Anheuser shot. And hopefully that didn't curl out, which it looked like it might have. It's going to be an easy up and down for a 4, nothing spectacular. And Dillan looks to be getting really aggressive through the woods there. You can see that catch cam coming in nice. Somehow he gets to everything. I don't really understand how he did it. That's just... It's either lucky or really skillful. I don't know which one to call it, honestly. Either way, they're under the basket for a birdie, which is big on this hole, especially after taking a par on the last one. If they were playing singles, going par birdie would be huge right now for those guys. This is the harder 9. Looks like Dillan and Bruce. Nothing spectacular. Probably a long putt for birdie. I can't talk right now. Ben throwing a little shot up to the basket, probably putting him within 15, and then Mark trying to get aggressive and throw that in with the green light there from Ben. Bruce just a hair low again. And see if Dillan can cash in with this one. Just missed it behind the basket. Maybe an inch or two too long. Would have been a big highlight putt there. Easy tap outs from Ben and Dillan to push this hole. 3 skins, $30. Hole 15, par 3, 329. You got one tree in the middle of the fairway to miss. And it's just dead straight with a touch of hyzer. The road does play out of bounds, as you can see over there on the left. but usually it never comes into play. This is tough for a righty forehand, since the hole kind of demands a backhand hyzer or a little flip-up turnover shot. There is a Mando on this hole, but that's way on the left. You can see Mark's drive up there. Nothing crazy. That's a long putt for them, just outside circle 2. And that looks absolutely blistered from Bruce. That is just 15 feet behind the basket. You couldn't ask for anything better unless it was in the basket. Let's see if Dillan can also put another one close. He threw the drive last time. If he could imitate that, that would be perfect. It looks like he just skied it just a hair. Hyzered out early on the left side. And looks like Dillan connected with that first tree in the middle. That is the easy mistake, or the common mistake that you see a lot out of these guys, is hitting that first tree. It's just so hard to commit to one side or the other. And there is Elijah throwing a great drive, putting those guys just outside circle. Uncharacteristic putt from Mark. You've seen him make all those all day long. Unfortunately, those guys can't connect on the putt. So they're going to be relying on Dillan and Elijah here to make this so this thing pushes. And just off the top band. Oh, don't roll! Oh, no. That's almost as far as they were to start with. Well, regardless, hopefully Elijah can either make this or get it close and put the pressure on him. Oh, and look at that. That is a huge putt. That's at least the second time, if not the third time, that Elijah has come in absolutely clutch for these guys. There's a little replay of it there. And that Anheuser putt just barely falling in the basket at the last second. Man, that is huge to keep this thing rolling. Just a tap in from Dillan, bringing you the second easiest hole on the course. Hole 16, par 3, 220. This might be the most aced hole at Craighead. This was one of the original old holes, and you see they're just teeing off by the road there. The only trees in play are those 3 right there in front of you. Players are going to be throwing just something straight with a touch of hyzer, trying to get into the screen. Looks like a good drive to start with, and then something great. Bruce coming in there to about 20-25 feet. There's it's hard to tell from this angle who's throwing. It was difficult to film from the tee there. But it looks like that's 3 separate teams that are inside circle 1. That was Dillan's shot there, skipping just over the tee box for the next hole. A little step out straddle putt, similar to the putt that they had on 10, just a lot shorter. And that's the easy mistake to make from a straddle putt, is leave it just a little bit short, not generating enough power to get the disc to get to those change. And not a mistake you see from Bruce missing straddle putts from that distance a lot. But with the other teams both close, you've got Elijah doing a signature flip putt straight in the basket. Anytime you're about 15 feet or in, you see him take out those crowns and just flip them into the basket. And Mark tapping out for the easy birdie, which makes this hole 17 worth 5 skins. We're getting in some big money games. 183, par 3. Kind of tight. It's really short, but the idea here is to get a disc just underneath the ceiling, high on hyzer, and let it kind of float back to the basket, which Elijah got the height and the hyzer. Let's see if we can see that on replay. And just beautifully done, skipping right up to the basket. We'll skip in a roll. Exactly what you want to see. See, and Ben throwing a good shot as well, catching one of those trees that's close to the basket to keep him about 30 to 35 feet short. Now, in the old design, before this course was put in, there was a basket placement about 20 feet to the left, and you see Mark taking one of those old lines so that you can utilize that forehand. But that gap is so much tighter and such a risk-reward shot there, and you can just see him kicking off to the left and not doing anything. And looks like Bruce left his a little wide, connected with one of those first trees. You're going to be looking to see Dillan throw a good shot here, hopefully, and picking up the pieces with that drive. Looks like he just skipped. Oh, that was close. Just cutting that inside gap there. You see him. Oh, man, that was super close. I think the catch cam guy said that was like just a few inches off, which is super fun to watch. I mean, that really looked like that was going in from the tee. Bringing it all to the line, hole 18, par 3, 234. I don't know if that distance is super accurate, but this hole is worth 6 skins. We talked about this before the round. If this hole pushes, we will just continue to play out, no added cash, until somebody can take this thing away. There's also a $5 CTP. You're looking to just throw something with a little bit of height, kind of straight with a little bit of hyzer to kind of start skipping back towards the basket. The road does play out of bounds, and unfortunately Ben catches the early stuff on the left there, drops him down, and that looks to be an accidental thrower there as it rolls out to the open in the fairway. And they'll have an easy up and down for 3, but that is not the kind of drives you want to see coming into the last hole there. The opening starts to get a little wider for these guys as one team has taken pretty much guaranteed 3. And there's the shot you want to see, that flip up hyzer shot with a little bit of height, skipping up towards the basket. It's probably going to leave him just outside the circle, or maybe edge of circle. That's a common mistake you'll see, is not quite committing to throw in that gap, and you hit the V tree there, or the tree just to the right of it, as Dillan did, which, not to discredit Dillan, he's been playing really good all day, but just not great execution from him right there. So with one team somewhere close to the circle, Bruce gets sneaky through the gap, just hangs on, staying in bounds there for a long birdie look. He's going to be probably just outside of circle 1. How he stayed in bounds, and you can see it on his face there as he kind of like the shock just hit him. And Dillan with a really good shot too, just not quite getting the ground action back to the basket. You're going to see these up shots from these guys, trying to throw it in with his last ditch effort. Sometimes words are just really hard. Looks like we may have missed Ben's up shot, but it doesn't look like he threw it in. We've got a run coming from Dillan. You see they're just outside circle, which means that Elijah and Dillan are going to be close, probably behind that clump of trees you see right behind that basket there. Just off the top, really good bid from where they were, since it's sloping down towards the basket, which is, in my opinion, one of the hardest putts to make, is a downhill putt in about a 10-mile-an-hour wind. It looks like they're going to be pretty pinched off there, so they're going to be trying to just float a putter to the basket. You know, if you don't see them make this, we go to extra holes. A good effort from Dillan, just a little bit wide. Had the right distance, right height, and right angle, just couldn't quite drop it in. So if Elijah can make this putt right here, it'll be interesting to see how Elijah attacks this, because he normally putts with a lot of anhyzer. And it looks like you can see him almost winding up that little bit of anhyzer too, and he does just a, oh, and there it is. That is huge. Still holding that little bit of anhyzer, staying true to what he normally does. And we'll see that replay there, and a little bit of slow motion slowing it down there for you guys. Just dropping it in, cashing in $60. Big money moves from Mark and Ben, taking $70 home. That's $45 a piece. And Elijah and Daniel taking $50 a piece with 10 skins. Unfortunately, Bruce and Dylan only came away with one, but everybody on the day had a long drive or some CTPs in one aspect or another. So everybody made a little bit of money there. Big shout out to the Jonesboro Disc Golf Club for helping us make this happen, and my sponsors Disc Dot and Prodigy Disc for backing me and making these videos. Stay tuned for more because I'm pretty sure we've got more skins coming in the future.